Testing for a second. Just make sure you see the bar. Test.
Hello. Happy Hanukkah, everybody. That's right. Okay, we'll begin momentarily. People could please take their seats. So for anybody who hasn't attended over the past few lectures, this series of lectures is based on my upcoming book. The book is called Stress Less, Prosper More, and it's based on a framework that I call the Peace Framework. So as a quick recap, the P stands for positive thinking, the E stands for embracing the challenging moments of life, reframing those moments. The A, which we dealt with yesterday, was appreciation or gratitude. And today, we're going to be speaking about the C. The C stands for certainty, stands for confidence, conviction, basically trust, Bitachon, trust in Hashem, and also trust in ourselves. So these three farmers were out in a field. and they were praying for rain. And they're praying with great fervor because there's been a terrible drought. And a gentleman passes by and he says, "What are you guys doing?" And they say, "We're praying for rain." He says, "No, you're not." And they say, "Yes, we are." He says, "No, you're not." He says, "But you don't understand. We're not only praying for ourselves, we are praying for our families. We're praying for our communities. This drought has been devastating." And the man says, "You're not." And they get very offended. "How dare you say we're not praying? We're praying with every fiber of our being." And the man said, "If you were really praying, you would bring an umbrella. You're not really praying. Or if you're praying, you don't really believe in the power of prayer. Because the power of prayer would mean that you are certain, that you have absolute certainty that it will rain. And because you have absolute certainty, you need to bring an umbrella because you're about to get wet. You're not being sincere." So I'm going to split today's lecture into two parts. The first part one, is going to be about finding our inner confidence. Finding that bitachon, that inner confidence within ourselves. And the second one is about finding the confidence to bring an umbrella to the field because you know it's going to rain. That's how we're going to split today's session together into two. So, I had mentioned on Shabbos, we had a little Fabrengen, a few people were here. Don't see, yeah, some people were there. I mentioned on Shabbos that I speak competitively. So there's a speaking competition. It's run by a very old organization called Toastmasters. I don't know if people have heard of Toastmasters. And you can, so you compete at the club level. If you win, if you get first place, then you can compete at the area level. If you win, you can compete at the district level. If you win that, you can compete at the national level. If you win that, you can compete in the World Championship speaking event. So I'll never get past district. I have one district, but I'll never go to nationals because they always have it on a Shabbos. So. So that's as far as I go. But Toastmasters has a very specific format about how competitions are run. As I said, it's a very old organization. It's British, so that explains a lot. And one of the things that they do is that there's a contest chair. And the contest chair has a number of duties. One of the duties that the contest chair has is to introduce the next speaker. And there's a very specific format that the contest chair uses to introduce a speaker. And the format is as follows. They say the speaker's name, the topic, the speaker's name. So they would say, John Smith, how to remain inspired, John Smith, right? That's how they would, I didn't make this stuff up, right? I'm just telling you what they do. So I figured I was going to have fun with this. So this is how I was going to have fun. This was my topic. My topic was, you're ugly, fat, a failure, and nobody loves you. So the poor chairperson had to stand up and he had to say, Avraham Jacks, you're ugly, fat, you dress badly, and you're a failure, nobody loves you. Nobody loves you, you're ugly, you're fat, you dress funny, Avraham Jacks. And then you're supposed to say, the speaker is supposed to tell the person, Mr. Contest, or Madam Contest Chair, in this case it was a Mr. Contest Chair, Mr. Contest Chair, thank you so much. I went like, Mr. Contest Chair, thank you so much. And everyone was laughing because they're very used to this procedure and how it all works. And they realized, what I had done, and I think I won at that point in time. So then I just had to tell the speech without saying MR too many times, and I indeed did win. The point of that speech was that you would never say that to a person. Like you would never, most decent people would never walk up to somebody and say, you're ugly, you're fat, you dress funny, you're a failure, nobody loves you. Nobody would ever say that to another person. But we say it to ourselves often. A lot of us have an inner voice, an inner critic. And that inner critic is constantly saying things that are toxic, that you would never say to somebody else, but to yourself, for some reason, you say it. And what does that do? When that inner critic is saying all of these negative things, what is it doing? It's diminishing your self-esteem. It's creating the circumstances where you fail. So I'm going to select 3 favorite hits of our inner critics, of a human inner critic. And they are catastrophizing, selective memory, and all or nothing thinking. Okay? So I want to show you what these 3 things are, what they look like. So we'll start with catastrophizing. So catastrophizing means that you basically exaggerate the negative potential for the future. That's catastrophizing. It's the end of the world. So what happens is you stub your toe and you figure your athletic career is over. So you've catastrophized it. You've taken that stubbed toe and you've blown it out of proportion. Or you send an email to your boss and it's not completed. You hit the send button. Not that that ever happened to me. I'm just telling you what people tell you. You hit the send button too early and you go, okay, that's it. You start thinking all sort of catastrophic thoughts. Clearly, my entire professional reputation is now in shambles. I'm going to be living in a cardboard box because I did. So you take what is really, you forgot to send that email or you sent it too early. It's really a very minor thing. But catastrophizing is blowing that out of proportion. And our inner critics, that inner voice that some people have, really blows the small things out of proportion. And it's called catastrophizing. So it's looking at the future as being very bleak because of something you did wrong now or some flaw that you have. The next one is selective memory. Selective memory is like focusing on the past. So let's say everybody is praising that time in camp when your chili recipe won the best dish in the camp, right? And they're praising you. And what's your inner critic telling you? Your inner critic is reminding you of the time that you burnt the toast at breakfast. And when they give you the most memorable cook, you say, yes, most memorable cook for ruining the breakfast of everybody. So you snatch victory out of the jaws of defeat, or the other way around, I think. Defeat out of the jaws of victory. And that's what selective memory is. Selective memory is only focusing on the negative that took place in the past. I'll do one more, and that is the all or nothing thinking. All or nothing thinking is where you look, you think in extremes. It's black or it's white, there's no such thing as gray in between. So let's say your friend is having a birthday party and you decide that you want to bake a cake for the friend. And in your mind, you're picturing this perfect 5-layer cake that's just, like you've seen these baking shows, the kind of cakes that are absolutely perfect. They look too good to eat. You just want to take pictures of them. And there's a new grocery store in Toronto that just opened up, a kosher grocery store. And their cakes are the most beautiful pieces of art you could ever imagine seeing. So you go in the kitchen, and of course it's the thought that counts, right? If you're going to come with a cake to your friend's going to be pretty happy that you brought them a cake, that you put the effort in. You didn't just buy something, you actually try to bake it yourself. And let's say it's an unmitigated disaster. So in your head, you're thinking, my cake looks like a Jonathan Pollock painting. That's a Jonathan Pollock painting, by the way. Just in case, like me, you're not educated enough to know what a Jonathan Pollock painting. I mean, these things go for millions of dollars. I don't know. I think I could do that. But anyway. And you think to yourself, like, that's it. I failed so badly. I should never be allowed near a kitchen again, right? That is the all or nothing thinking. It's not all or nothing. You don't have to make the most beautiful cake in the world. You made something, your friend will appreciate it, and the inner voice is going to undermine that and push you to one of the extremes. So all of these things, it's all, when a husband comes back from work and his wife said, "Did you remember to pick up the challah?" Right? And he forgot. So he should just say, "Oh, forgot. Shlamazel. Let me go and get the challah." But the problem is that this inner voice creates such an extreme catastrophe out of the fact that you didn't, it almost becomes like life and death. Your whole life. So, you didn't do that. I may have forgotten, but you did. Why are you getting defensive? And the answer is because your inner voice is turning something which should be very small and very trivial into something which is very significant. So what are you supposed to do? It's going to rob you of your certainty. It's going to rob you of your self-esteem. It's a constant barrage in some people's head of negativity from the moment they wake up to the moment they go to sleep. It's got to be very, very destructive to a person's well-being. So what do? The first thing you have to do is challenge vigorously these things. Is it true? Is it true that I should never be allowed into a kitchen again because I tried to make a cake for a friend and it didn't come out perfect? Is that true? So you need to challenge these thoughts, actively challenge these thoughts, right? So somebody asked me to give people practical applications of some of the ideas that we're going to talk about. And so here is one right here. Let's together decide that over the next 3 days, every time we have a thought, we're going to examine that thought. If it is negative, we're going to challenge it. We're going to challenge it in a way that my teenage children challenge everything I say. We're going to say, is it really true? Is it really that extreme? Am I really going to end up living in a box because I forgot to send that email? Is that really true? Or is the truth somewhat more benign? And you're going to keep attacking any negative thought that comes in your head. Try that for 3 days and see how it can change so much about your life. Now, I know what you're thinking. Your inner voice is saying, yeah, that guy, good luck with that. You're such a failure, and you're ugly, and you dress funny, right? You're not going to succeed for 3 days to challenge all your thoughts, your negative thoughts. So there's a very famous story of a chassid of the Alter Rebbe. And this chassid of the Alter Rebbe, he was a linguist. He knew many languages. And as a result, he was able to get a position translating. He knew French, he knew Russian, Yiddish, of course, Hebrew, but he got a job as a translator for the generals of Napoleon. And Napoleon figured at one point that he may be a spy, which he actually was. Napoleon. Napoleon thought that he might be a spy. So he, especially like you could imagine when the generals were speaking about, military strategy, and there was this Jew amongst the crowd. So Napoleon one day burst into a room where they were discussing strategy, and he ran up to Rabbi Moshe, his name was, and he put his hand on his chest, and he said, "You are a spy." And he wanted to feel if his heart rate would change. If he was guilty, his heart rate would change. And he was guilty, but his heart rate didn't change. So later on, he discussed this with his fellow Hasidim, and he said he took one of the most fundamental teachings of the Alter Rebbe, which is that moyach shalit al alev. Moyach shalit al alev means that a head rules over a heart. This is the natural default position of a person, that our heads could control our emotions. How do you say the word king in Hebrew? Melech. So Melech is an acronym. It stands for Moach. Moach means head. It stands for Lev. The next letter is Lamed Lev, which stands for heart. And the final letter is a Chaf, which stands for the different innards, the livers, the innards, the kishkas. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. It stands for the kishkas. So when a human being has that format, you have the head ruling over the heart, ruling over the lower bodily functions, then he is a king. That is the definition of a king. He's the ultimate human being. But if you switch it around, the letters, and you let the heart rule over the head, then it becomes a lemech. A lemech means a clown, like a joke. What? Somebody who's ugly and fat and a failure. That's what a lemech means. So you have this. If we want to be human beings, if we want to be effective human beings, our natural state is that our heads rule over our heart. So this Reb Moshe, he said that his head ruled over his heart and literally, physically stopped his heart from beating faster when Napoleon walked in that frightening moment. So it can be done. If we learn enough Chassidus and we integrate the Chassidus and we integrate this idea that a human being allows his head to rule over his emotions, then we can achieve and accomplish this ability to challenge our negative inner thoughts. And when we challenge our negative inner thoughts, we can conquer that and we can create a certainty in our life. Now, that is the first piece of the puzzle. There's another piece of the puzzle. That's what we're going to discuss now, and that's Bitachon, and they are very related. They are very related. Bitachon means trust in Hashem, and they're very related. So let me start with a story of the Baal Shem Tov, who was traveling with one of his students. The student's name was Reb Mendel of Bar. Reb Mendel of Bar, I called him. He was a big tzaddik. And they were traveling, and Reb Mendel was very thirsty. Reb Mendel of Bar was very thirsty. And to the point that it was potentially life-threatening. So the Baal Shem Tov, who was Reb Mendel's mentor, obviously spiritual mentor, him, that all he needs to do is have bitachon, have absolute trust that Hashem will send water and the water will appear. And the next thing, they see this nobleman riding on a horse, and he comes riding by. There's a picture of him. There was a photographer on hand and just happened to take the picture. And he says, have you seen my horse? He's looking for his steed. He has this very expensive horse. And he's been searching for the horse for 3 days. And so he's in the forest, the same forest that the Baal Shem Tov, Reb Mendel of Bar are in. And he says, have you seen my horse? And they say, no, we haven't, but do you have water? And he says, yes, I have water. So they say, please, this person is dying of thirst, give him water. And so they give Reb Mendel of Bar water, and they revive him. They didn't see the horse. Off the man goes, searching for his horse. And Reb Mendel of Bar turns to the Baal Shem Tov and he says to the Baal Shem Tov, this person started his quest, his search for his horse 3 days ago. And the Baal Shem Tov explains that because you had bitachon, because you had absolute trust that God would send you water, God knew that you would have absolute trust, and so 3 days before, he already sent the water. That's what I'm talking about, certainty. Certainty is that you are absolutely certain that the water will appear. Even if it meant that 3 days ago, some sequence of events had to happen so that you ended up with the water today, it will happen. I'll tell you, you think this story happened only in the times of the Baal Shem Tov. It happened recently. A similar story. In Eretz Yisrael, there was a Jew. And this Jew needed many thousands of shekels. Why did he need money? He needed money because he was marrying off a daughter. He was a bit behind on his rent. He needed, a friend had lent him some money and he called in the money. He called in the loan. And all of this came together at the same time, and it was Elul. Several years ago, it was Elul. And he needed money. So he went to shul, and with tremendous bitachon, with tremendous trust in Hashem, he davened, he asked Hashem, he prayed that he should be given the money that he needs, and he was certain that that would be the case. So when he had finished that morning, he'd finished his prayers, he came home, and he was tired, he lay down to rest. While he's sleeping, his little daughter comes into the room and shakes him. Tati, she says, wake up, I found where you hide your money. And he was like groggy, and he woke up and he said, it's a very serious sin to wake up a parent. This better be good. He says, come. So the kid says, come to the dining room. You're going to see. Come to the dining room. I found where you hide the money. All right, he goes into the dining room. And there was literally money, cash, flying out of his air conditioner. I'm sure this happens to everybody, right? Where your air conditioner starts spitting out cash. Lots of it. And they start running around the dining room, the kids picking up the cash. It's 10,000 shekel. More than he needed to cover all of his immediate expenses and obligations. Which? They want to know which air conditioning company it is on this side of the chitza. So, cash flow, I think is the name of the company. Cash flow. So what had happened? This is the story. You see, that house had been used as a seminary dormitory more than 10 years before they moved into the house. Okay? And they lived in the house for a few years. And what they imagine happened is that one of the seminary girls hid her money, her cash, inside the air conditioner. Now, the air conditioner had been serviced several times since the girls were in the dormitory, used the property as a dormitory, and nobody had ever seen the money. Hashem had covered their eyes. They didn't see it. And obviously this person didn't see it. But when he needed it, when he prayed to Hashem, when he was out there in the field and he said, and he took the umbrella with because he was absolutely certain that it would rain, it did rain. It rained money. It rained cash. So he went to a dayan, to a Rav, and he asked the Rav if he's allowed to keep the money. And the Rav said, you have to write down the exact amount, and you have to keep it aside. And if somebody ever comes to claim it, you have to figure out how you're going to pay that person back. But till they come and they claim it, because so much time has passed and nobody has claimed it, you can use the money to marry off your daughter, to pay the loan, to buy school books for the new year, to pay your rent, and that's what he did. So you see that Hashem had, for some reason, caused this seminary girl to put her money in 10, 15 years in the past, hide it over there. For that moment, when this Jew would have the right amount of bitachon, of trust in Hashem, and then the money would flow.
Does that mean she didn't have bitachon because she lost it?
That means money. What's that?
I wanted to go a lot of money. Would you be upset?
Yeah, I don't know. You have to ask Hashem. I don't. By the way, I don't work in heavenly accounting. That's like not my department. I'm more in sales and marketing. So that's what I'm into. So these type of questions, I don't know. I had the same questions you did, but I don't know. Reb Simcha Bunim of Pshischa, the Hasidic Rabbi, he said something really interesting. He said, people say that money doesn't fall from heavens. They're wrong. Money falls from the heavens. It does. Well, sometimes it falls from the air conditioner, but I'm saying mostly that's where money comes from. In other words, we misunderstand if we think that it's our boss who gave us the paycheck, and that's where the money came from. I've mentioned this in a prior session. We misunderstand the reality if that's what we think. Here's a letter that the Rebbe wrote to somebody, and it's just, I'm going to read you the quote. The Rebbe wrote the letter in Hebrew, but I'll read you the English translation. It's a very, very powerful letter. The Rebbe said, once and for all, the Rebbe said to this chassid, once and for all, it must be acknowledged that trust, that bitachon, cannot remain an abstract notion. Rather, the very definition of trust is that it should permeate and influence every aspect of your life. Since you believe that Hashem watches over and sustains billions of people, He can unquestionably provide you with everything you need. If we believe as we do, since we believe that Hashem watches over and sustains 8 billion people on this planet, He can certainly send you cash through your air conditioner. That is not hard compared to sustaining 8 billion people. The question was, millions are starving. Yeah, starvation is definitely on the decline, Baruch Hashem. There are far less people every decade for the last several starving than there were the decade before. So I think the world is getting better at feeding 8 billion people. But certainly the fact that there are 8 billion people alive means that, in fact, I'll tell you, we live in a very, very peculiar time. In our time today, more people have ill health and pass away because of overeating than undereating. And this is the first time that this has happened in human history. In human history, the problem was always a scarcity, a lack of food. If there was a drought, people were very subject to that. It wasn't so easy to transport food quickly over large distances. So that was the problem. Today, you know, we have a different issue with food. But again, I'm not in accounting. I don't really understand how all these things work. I'm in sales and marketing, and let me tell you, it works. I don't know how, it works. You have bitachon, it works. I can tell you hundreds of stories. We have, how many stories have we shared, right? And these are stories that happen to people. Some of them happen to people I know. And it's important to share these stories. It's important for us to encourage each other in our bitachon and to remember these stories. Even if you've heard some of the stories that I've said before, it's very important to hear them again, to remind ourselves of them, because this is what fires up our bitachon. And here's another practical tip that I could give you. Make sure that you have, that you're learning Shara Bitachon, there's tremendous resources online to be able to learn Shara Bitachon now. You hear stories of holy Jews who had bitachon and how it impacted their lives. These things are really, really important. And the more we think about these things, the more we talk about them, the more stories we hear about it, the more we strengthen our bitachon. The more we strengthen our bitachon, the Rebbe says in a letter that bitachon is like a faucet. It's like a tap. It opens up the valve of blessing, for blessing to flow and to gush forward when you have bitachon. So the blessing is there, it's ready to come, it's the default position, like I explained yesterday. The default position is that blessing should just gush into our lives. Sometimes a lack of bitachon could block the water from flowing. So you just have to turn on the bitachon tap. You turn on the bitachon tap, and the blessing flows.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
What if the thing that you want or think that you need is actually not destined for you, or maybe not even good for you?
Amazing question.
Something that maybe wrong thing.
So the question was, what if the thing that you want is not good for you? It's not the right thing for you.
Or you think it's good for you, but for whatever reason, Hashem decided.
Yeah, you think it's good for you, but Hashem knows the reality that it's not good for you. Like, you know, that 5-year-old kid, 4-year-old kid that has a birthday party, and he gets 2 gifts. From his favorite aunt, he gets a remote-controlled car. Wow. Amazing. He's so excited. Wow. And from his father, that horrible, horrible father, he gets $2 million worth of stock, a stock portfolio. I mean, a piece of paper? Really? Dad? Piece of paper? That's what you give me for my... So the problem is that the kid just doesn't know the value of that piece of paper. And so he thinks that the remote-controlled car is a better gift. But we know with our maturity that really it's not the better of the 2 gifts. So a lot of times, we just spiritually and emotionally and psychologically immature. And God says, I'm going to give you $2 million, a $2 million stock portfolio. And we're like, nah, I'd rather take the remote control car thing, the $20 remote control car. I'd rather take that. So we have to, so you are right. There are times when we think that what we want is good for us, and Hashem knows that it's not really good for us. But I think I kind of addressed that more when we spoke about the the embracing the suffering. So remember that story, for those who were here, that I told about my car, that I couldn't find the parking spot, and then the tree went back. So I thought that the best interest for me was for me to have my regular parking spot. And then Hashem said, no, because you got out of bed and everything, and I'll make sure that you don't have the parking spot. And so that often happens. But when we want things that are clearly and objectively good health, good mental health, good physical health, wealth, to be able, so in the shul where I daven, there's a kohen, and he gives the most incredible bracha, incredible blessing to everybody every morning at the end of davening. He gives us the most amazing blessing, and it contains everything. Like, you cannot think of a thing that you would want in your life that is not in this beautiful blessing. That as a kohen, he has this power to bless the people, so he blesses everybody every single day. And one of the parts of the blessing, he says, you should have infinite positive cash flow to do many, many mitzvahs. Right? That's part of this beautiful blessing that he gives. So it's interesting. He's saying you should have infinite positive cash flow to do many, many mitzvahs. In other words, he's saying you should have the money, and you should use that money, channel the money for things that are positive and that are good. So there are things which we can objectively say, and if we cannot objectively say, then our mashpia, our mentor, our rabbi, can tell us that for you this is a really good thing that you should have. And when we have totally decided that something is good and positive, then the bitachon manifests it, makes it happen. I mentioned this in passing in the earlier class, but I'm gonna repeat it today because I think it's really important. So I said, imagine if you have an old car similar to the one that I first had, my first car that my parents bought me, looked something like that. You will never have full confidence, full certainty that it's going to get you from point A to point B. But if you have a brand new luxury vehicle, you have much more confidence that it's going to take you from point A to point B. So the ultimate trust that we can have is in God. Now, in Shara Bitachon, he discusses the various characteristics that you could have that could truly allow you to trust in somebody. And what he says is, so he has several characteristics that if anyone would have these characteristics, you could absolutely rely on them. So if it came to cars, if the car had these certain characteristics, a good engine, it's well serviced, it has good tires, brand new tires, whatever it is, that car will get you to where it needs to take you. And if it has, so a person has these things, these characteristics, you can put your trust in that person. And then the conclusion is no individual person or thing, object, has these characteristics. The only being that has all these characteristics is Hashem. That's how Shara Bitachon puts it. So I like my acronyms. I created an acronym to try and remember what Shara Bitachon says are the characteristics that if a person or being or entity has these characteristics, we can totally trust in these characteristics. And the acronym that I came up with is TRUSTS. You see what I did there? See the connection? All right. So the T stands for tender and caring. The first thing is, if you want to trust in somebody, that person has to be a kind person. They could be very powerful, very strong, very capable, but if they're cruel and they're not caring, then they're not going to help you. So you can't trust in them. See how it works? Okay. The R stands for responsive. Means that they must be attentive to your needs. They must know. They cannot be lazy. They cannot be uncaring or apathetic. The U stands for understand what's in your best interest. They have to know what benefits you, truly benefits you. What is for your true benefit? Because if they are tender and caring, if they're responsive, they want to help you. They like you, they want to help you, but they don't know how to help you, then they're not going to be able to help you. So they need all of these things. Even if they had the first two, if they didn't have the third, understanding your best interest, they're not going to help you. Now, they could be tender and caring, they could be responsive, they could understand your best interest, but what if they don't have the skill? What if they're not a doctor? What if they're not an accountant and you need your taxes done? So they could be very tender and caring, they could be very responsive, they understand you need your taxes done, they could understand that it is in your best interest to file your taxes, they just don't know how to do it. They're not skilled. So they can have all the other qualities, they don't have skill, they're not going to be able, you can't trust them. The next T stands for track record. Okay, very good. Maybe they are tender, they're responsive, they understand you, but maybe, and they're skilled, but maybe they're very new at this. You know, would you like to be a doctor's first patient for surgery? Not me. I want somebody with a track record. And then the other thing is they have to be the sole provider. Because if they have to partner with somebody else, if they have to find a partner, then that partner may not be as skilled and as responsive and as understanding and all the other things as them. And so if they're going to give you, or they're required to have somebody else help them, a partner, they're not the sole provider, then you cannot fully trust in them. So you see where he goes in Shara Bitachon is he says that there is only one entity that has all these things, and that is Hashem. So I'll tell you, this actually came from a very traumatic experience that I myself experienced. And I had to apply all of these. And I thought, wow, what a model for explaining this. And I'll tell you what the experience was. The experience was, I have a barber in Toronto that I use, and I needed my hair cut because I knew I was coming to Melbourne, Australia to give a lecture. I figured I shouldn't come with unkempt hair. So I went to my barber, and he wasn't there. Yeah, I was on vacation. I said it was traumatic, but anyway, here I am. So there was another guy there, and I was desperate. I needed a haircut. I was getting on a plane soon, and I had to have my haircut. So I walk in, and there's this strange guy there. I don't know, and I tell him, and he greets me with this smile, and he has like a really nice face. So I figured to myself, at least he's going to want to do a good job for me, right? Because he looks tender and caring. So he's got the first T of trust. Okay. The next thing is I start telling him what I want. You know, I tell him only cut the white hairs, not the brown hair. I have a whole thing that I told him to do. And he's very responsive. He's listening. He's nodding his head. I could see that he's very focused on what I'm saying, and he's listening very carefully to the instructions that I'm giving him. So he passes the next one. He's responsive. I'm like, awesome. Then he starts telling me about the shape of my face and how cutting it and this and that, and if he uses a different, he starts telling me, and I'm like, okay, this guy understands how to cut my hair. Like, I think he gets me, right? Is he skilled? Well, I saw as soon as he picks up the shaver thing, the scissors, whatever, I see, okay, he's holding it right. You know, my mentor, Mendel Futterfass, when he was in the gulags of Russia, so he was there with a person who was a circus performer prior to going to jail. And for some reason, Stalin didn't like circus performers. Actually, didn't like anybody. So he sent the circus performer to the gulags of Siberia. And he met with Reb Mendel, and he told Reb Mendel that he could walk on a rope. Like if you suspend a rope between two poles, he could balance on the rope. And Reb Mendel said that is impossible. That cannot be the case. I think you're lying. And he was like, yeah. Anyway, Stalin died, thank God. And when he died, they loosened things a little bit. And if anybody was like a performer or an actor or something, they allowed them to put on a show. So the guy said to Reb Mendel, I'm going to show you now. And they suspended a rope from pole to pole. And the guy got on the rope, but he was a bit rusty. He hadn't done it for many years. And so he fell. But Reb Mendel said that the moment he fell, he knew that he would succeed. He fell like a pro. He fell in a way that, you know, if I would fall, it would look a lot less elegant. He fell, so Reb Mendel knew already that he had lost the argument and that the guy would actually be able to walk on the tightrope. So this guy picks up his scissors. Just the way he picks up his scissors, you know he's skilled. Oh my goodness, we're good. T-R-U-S. Okay, but does he have a track record? So the guy pulls out pictures of people who he's cut hair, and I look at those pictures and I go, he's got a lot of experience, going all the way back. Okay, T-R-U-S-T. You see the sole provider? What if I come back again when I'm finished here in Melbourne, and I go back and I get another haircut, and he's not there? And my regular guy's not there. So he's their third guy. And he goes, nope, it's just me and the previous guy. I can really trust in them because they have all of the qualities that a person should have in order to trust them. Obviously, the story is somewhat exaggerated and not really 100% true, but I think it makes the point. And the point is that really there is nobody that will fulfill all of these criteria and have all these characteristics except Hashem. Okay, using Bitachon to win the lottery. I know, this is what you were waiting for. I didn't want to say this now because I'm not sure if anyone will come back tomorrow. But anyway, I'll take my chances. I have Bitachon. I have trust in you guys. You're going to come back. All right, so this guy buys a lottery ticket. And he's absolutely convinced that he's going to win. Absolutely convinced he's going to win the lottery. And he goes to this mystic. And he tells this mystic, I am absolutely convinced that this is a winning lottery ticket. And the mystic looks at him and says, you know what? It is. I've divined it. It actually is. You have won. That ticket will win $10 million. So the mystic says to him, the draw is tomorrow. I'll give you $7 million right now. And the guy goes, sure. And he says, you blew it. You blew it. If you really believed that it was going to win $10 million, you wouldn't sell it to me at a discount at $7 million. So the fact that you don't absolutely have that 100% certainty, the fact that you don't have the bitachon 100% certain, means that you're not going to, it's not going to. That's not how bitachon works. Bitachon has to be 100% certain.
Did he win?
No, he didn't. He blew it. He was about to win.
Did the mystic win?
Huh? No. That ticket was now lost. The ticket had no more validity because that ticket had lost. That's it. Okay. So we've said that bitachon is absolute 100% certainty. The thing has all the qualities of trust in it, so you absolutely trust that thing. That is bitachon. Bitachon is on the right side. There is emun, or hope, or acceptance. And emunah is very different to bitachon, which is trust or reliance. And there's much ink spilled to explain the difference between emunah and bitachon. But I'll just, we'll look at a few of them together. First of all, emunah is a desire and a hope for a better future. Bitachon is unshakable certainty that the future will be better. See the difference? Emunah is, I hope that there's going to be a light at the end of the tunnel. Bitachon, reliance, means it's light right now, in the tunnel. Emunah is whatever happens is going to ultimately be for the good. So even if it seems uncomfortable at the moment, it seems that this experience is negative, it will somehow end positive. Bitachon is, you can already appreciate that the thing itself is good. Not that it will be good, but that it is good. Faith, as we learned in the second session that we had together, faith is external. It does not necessarily impact your actions. Remember Samuel Levine, that assassin who wouldn't kill on Shabbos, right? So he has faith to keep Shabbos, but he doesn't. But he kills for a living. He does death for a living. Anyway, so faith is external. It doesn't integrate into your life. While living a godly life means that every aspect of your life is in Hashem's hands, and you're doing it as Hashem wants. Faith is constant. Trust is only awakened whenever there's a challenge. Faith is weaker. It's conditional. Bitachon is audacious. It's dauntless. It's strong. It's power, right? Faith provides no guarantees of what the outcome is going to be. Bitachon activates miracles and creates abundance. So, okay. So that's some of the differences between faith and bitachon. I'll conclude with a story. It's really a remarkable story. And I think it brings together both of the themes that I'm trying to touch on today. This story was told by the Maggid of Mezrich about his mentor, the Baal Shem Tov. So what had happened was that one Motzei Shabbos, a woman came into the shul where the Baal Shem Tov was with his chassidim, and the woman needed a certain amount of money, and it was urgent. She needed it immediately, a certain amount of money, otherwise she was about to be kicked. She was a widow, and she was about to be kicked out of her home, and she had to come up with money to pay the rent immediately. So she comes in and she asks the Baal Shem Tov and his Hasidim to please give her a certain sum of money. Now it was Motzei Shabbos. It was a few minutes after Shabbos end. We know that religious Jews, we don't carry money on Shabbos, right? Which means that from Friday, the previous Friday, till that Saturday night, there was not a person in the room that had money in their pockets, because it's just been Shabbos. And so the Baal Shem Tov tells everybody, please put your hands in your pockets, and if there's any money in there, bring it out. Everybody puts their hands in their pockets, and they all have money in their pockets. And they send the money up to the Baal Shem Tov, and they count the money, and it is the exact amount that the woman needed. So the Maggid asks his Hasidim, who are listening to the story, he says, what is the lesson of the story? What would you think the lesson of the story is? Check your pockets before Shabbos, that's my lesson. So the first thing that the Hasidim came up with is they said, this is a story which teaches us the greatness of the Baal Shem Tov, that he performed such an incredible miracle. The Maggid rejected that explanation. The Maggid said, no, there are many stories of how the Baal Shem Tov is a miracle worker. This is not the greatness of the story, that the Baal Shem Tov was a miracle worker. So somebody said, yes, but the miracle was that the amount of money that was collected was the exact specific amount of money that the woman needed. So again, this is just a deeper miracle, a more impressive miracle, but there are many miracle stories of the Baal Shem Tov. We don't need another miracle story. That's not the greatness of the story. So what is the greatness of the story? So somebody said, the greatness of this story is the compassion of the Baal Shem Tov, that he performed this miracle in front of everybody to assist this woman. So it may not be, it's not the greatness of the Baal Shem Tov in terms of being a miracle worker, it's the greatness of the Baal Shem Tov in terms of his compassion for another human being. And again, the Maggid said there are many stories that teach you that. And he said, you're on the wrong track. You're all talking about the Baal Shem Tov. This is not a story about the greatness of the Baal Shem Tov. This is a story about the greatness of his Chassid. This is a story of a room full of people who knew without any doubt that there was no money in their pockets. And nonetheless, because the Rebbe said, put your hands in your pocket and pull out the money, they all put their hands in their pockets and they pulled out the money. It's a story about the Hasidim, it's a story about us. It's a story about Bitachon, not that a tzaddik has. It's a story about Bitachon that a Jew has. A regular Jew. There's no such thing. And so I think this brings the two themes together. The two themes are to find that inner certainty that we have within ourselves and we need within ourselves to accomplish and achieve anything great in this world, anything noble, anything worthwhile in this world, that we have to find that inner strength to silence our negative voices and to bring to the fore positive voices, positive affirmations that tell us, yes, we can go out there, we can accomplish things, we can change the world. It is not too dark, it is not too dangerous. That power comes from the bitachon, the trust that we have that Hashem created us with everything we need to accomplish everything we need to accomplish. And so the message I want to leave you with today, spend the next 3 days, and I'm going to try and do this too, being intentional about the messages that you're saying in your head. Don't allow the doubts to creep in. The doubts that there is no money in my pocket. I know there's no money in my pocket. Don't let that doubt creep in. If Hashem said there has to be money in your pocket, if the Rebbe says there has to be money in your pocket, stick your hand in your pocket and pull out the money. Quiet that voice of doubt. Quiet that voice that says you're not good enough, you're not big enough, You can't accomplish that. You can't go mitzvah. You can't make a difference. Silence that voice. And with your trust in Hashem that He has given you everything, because God don't make no junk. He's given you everything that you need to succeed in your spiritual mission on this earth. Go and do it.
Oh, yeah.
That was amazing. Is it possible to get the slides?
Yeah, we can do that. I'll work through